So I just put together, really it's the typical things that we hear about how to stay healthy. First and foremost, for me, reducing your stress levels is number one. That being, when we're stressed, we really see a reduction in metabolic functioning. And when we have this sort of dysfunction, our hormones just don't work properly. And we realize that mental and emotional disorders stem from such stress, sleep disorders. We find we're more predisposed to metabolic and glycemic dysfunction, which lead to obesity and higher rates of diabetes. And so really, great ways to mitigate a stress response, not only through mindfulness or focused practices, but we have things like Qigong, Tai Chi, breathing techniques, listening to music, some really common supplementation things that we can do, like ashwagandha, holy basil or tulsi teas, and some ginseng really help to mitigate that stress response. A really good focus on diet and nutrition. And I hate using the word diet because it always means like restriction. But I look at food as a way to just energize and fortify my body. And so our focus would be to really break the cortisol, insulin, adiposity, inflammatory response. And how do you do that? And really it's whole foods. Let's stay closer to whole foods that are high in phytonutrients and polyphenols, things that are high in water and lipid-soluble vitamins and antioxidants, especially fiber, because it really works to downregulate an overactive immune response and inflammation. So that's getting 9 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, 28 to 35 grams of fiber, really sticking with the whole foods, getting rid of the inflammatory foods like sugar or anything that's highly acidic. Focusing on probiotic rich foods because it really helps the epithelial health as well as our gut barrier. And just recognizing that by eating healthy, we're actually supporting our immune system by balancing those inflammatory pathways, but also by reducing oxidative stress and increasing those antioxidant levels. And first and foremost, like really balancing the gut microbiome. And we're seeing lots of studies that demonstrate how important the gut is in mitigating long-term disease. I hate saying that there's a better diet out there, again, because I don't like putting names to things, but again, sticking to something like more Mediterranean style in that it's just high in vegetables, right? High in fruits, high in whole grains. Beans, nuts, seeds, and olive oils. And that's where you find those omegas, the healthy polyphenols and phytonutrients. Staying hydrated, especially if you're out my way in Virginia. We've been having lots of heat and humidity, so we find that we sweat more. We find that 11 cups per day for women and 16 cups for men is pretty ideal. Or you can take about half your body weight in ounces per day. That is usually a good rule of thumb in terms of knowing how much to drink. Why is it so important? Well, it regulates body temperature. It keeps our joints lubricated. It prevents infections. It supports delivery of nutrients to cells, and it keeps our organs functioning properly. But it also helps to support sleep, cognition, and mood. So with that said, like that's a really high number of water intake if you think at it, from a simple level. But when you eat a lot of high water content foods like cucumbers and salads, that actually contributes to your overall water intake. So 1 cup of salad is equivalent to about ½ a cup of water. Sleep, again, really pertinent. That again goes back to mitigating inflammation and quieting the stress response. And according to the National Sleep Foundation, they found that the most optimal times to get sleep are between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. And that's not just any sleep, it's 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Again, this is really critical for metabolic processes and allowing our bodies to rejuvenate because it, sleep has a major influence on our immune function as well as inflammatory signals. When we get less than 7 hours of sleep, for every hour less of 7, we start increasing our risk for disease because we lose our ability to regulate blood sugars, as well as insulin secretion, and our response to insulin decreases. The inflammatory cortisol increases, and then we start beginning to mimic the effects of early stage diabetes and even aging. There was a study in 2017 in JAMA called Resetting the Circadian Clock Might Boost Metabolic Health. And this was by Bridget Kuhn. And she details what science is learning in regards to how an individual's habits, regarding sleep, regarding eating patterns, and specifically more diet itself, how it contributes to desynchronizing how the body's circadian clock in turn increases metabolic problems. So again, we're going back to more inflammation, more diabetes, more obesity, more cognitive decline. And then I think another great, my last one that I put in that's pertinent is exercise. And that looks different for everybody. If we go back to just learning to get our bodies moving, what looks like movement to you? It's not necessarily getting in the gym and doing HIIT every single day, but what opportunity for movement can you do every single day? Maybe take the stairs a little bit more than an elevator. Maybe park 3 or 4 spots away from where you would park normally in an entranceway for a shop. Maybe it's going on a walk, doing nature hikes. The American Heart Association recommends 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity, or 75 minutes of high intensity activity a week, and 2 days of strength training. But again, if we're not somebody that's inclined to really go hit the gym, it's what can you do to get your body moving? And why is this important? But activity actually supports the immune system yet again. It raises levels of white blood cells, which fight infections. And again, with this COVID, that's really what we're looking to do, is really support our immune system. It also helps increase circulation and decrease cortisol. So in that, we find lower risks of heart disease, lower risks of stroke, type 2 diabetes, reduces the blood pressure, dementia and Alzheimer's, which we know to be dubbed in our world as diabetes 3, several types of cancers. It improves sleep and cognition, better bone health and balance, which as we age become crucial. And we have less symptoms of depression and anxiety, and studies support even doing minimal activity will improve your happy feelings, right? And it also improves better quality of life and the overall well-being. So those were my 5 little spots that I felt were worthy of contributing and mitigating against, everything that we're going through right now with COVID, staying healthy, supporting the immune response.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So Debra, we had 2 questions. What is the name of the book on nutrition that you recommend? And what was the title of the JAMA article about resting circadian rhythms?
Yeah, let me put that in there for you. I can copy and paste that. So it's called Resetting the Circadian Clock. Here we go. I take that in here for you. And that was by Bridget Kuhn, K-U-E-H-N, in 2017. There we go. And then the second question you had was a book I recommend on nutrition. One of them that we actually read in GW for our classes is The Metabolic Code from Dr. Laval. And I really like that one specifically because not only does it really identify the foods that are highly inflammatory in our bodies and why, but how to go about supplementing and supporting our bodies to get rid of that inflammation And it's actually something that I've implemented myself and have seen drastic changes because I do suffer from autoimmune disease. So that one is probably one of my tops.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I think unless anyone has any additional questions for Debra, follow up, it would be an opportunity to shift this to Claudia Joy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Debra. Claudia Joy, here.
Thank you.
A quick question. Does anyone know whether decaf green tea has the same antioxidant properties as the caffeine version? Claudia Joy, you might actually know that.
Actually, I'm not so sure about that. I've never seen any articles about the decaffeination process, if it affects antioxidants. Do you know, Debra?
If it's not aluminum-based decaf process, it should do absolutely no difference. It should be just the same. But a lot of the poor quality decaf processes involved pro-accidents, so those could be.
I never drink anything uncaffeinated, so. Okay. I mean, what's the purpose? But anyway.
Good answer.
Acid metabolizer like me and take a sip and be like,
yeah, fair enough. You know, in my past life, I've been a chef and a nurse, so I will tell you that you always need to be caffeinated in both of those professions. So actually, this is perfect to follow, Debra, because we're going to also talk about things that bring down cortisol levels. So I'm just going to share my screen. And, oops, that's not, I really wanted the PowerPoint. Hold on. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. We can do it from here. Can everyone see the PowerPoint on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, good. It'll work this way. So I wanted to talk just a little bit, you know, everyone's always doing guided imagery. And so, you know, a couple of things that I wanted to do today is, first of all, we really know how much we want to spend time outside and how important it is for both our mental and physical health. And it's been a bit difficult to do that since COVID came along. And so I wanted to do some guided imagery with you all, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of guided imagery before we get there. And so I want you to concentrate on the slides, and we'll talk about guided imagery, and then we'll actually do a virtual walk in the woods. So, you know, one thing about guided imagery is it's often called a number of different things. Sometimes it's called guided meditation or visualization or mental rehearsal or guided self-hypnosis. But in all of those things, it's a mind and body technique, which is when a participant generates certain mental images, and those images are focusing the imagination in a positive way. And so it uses words and images to help move attention away from any stress or worry or pain that we are feeling, and it helps us really find our inner strength and creativity. And so in doing that, we bring those natural powers of the mind into health and healing. So we can really, through guided imagery, we can create the state that we want through our imagination. And then we can really change the way we feel by changing our focus. And I think there's no better time than to be able to do that right now. So, you know, one of the things that that it does, as you see here, it's a mind-body technique. We do use visualization and mental images, and we do it to support our health and well-being. It does use all of our senses, and we're going to see that when we do the visualization of the walk in the woods. And so you're using your sight and your sounds, the way you smell, memories of that smell and memories of that taste, and how you feel when you touch something. And in that way, you can really bring back those memories that were pleasant memories from your past. Some people use one sense more than others, and it really doesn't matter, whatever works for you. The good thing about using guided imagery is you can do it in person, you can do it on a Zoom, you can do it over the phone, or you can really do it anywhere. And you can do it by somebody who's trained, or you can do it by yourself. So it's one of those things that with a little practice, you can go into doing guided imagery whenever you feel stressed. So how is it used? So, you know, obviously it's used to promote relaxation and reduce stress, but it's also used to reach different goals for people. So if they want to lose weight, or if they want to quit smoking, or if they want to increase their exercise. It also really seems to help with pain relief, and to really help with anxiety or depression, particularly things like panic attacks. It can be used to stimulate the immune system, and there's good research around that, or even doing something like helping to promote healing. And it even can be used to prepare yourself for an athletic event, or for public speaking, or in case you are about to do some kind of a big exam. And so you'll see it used by musicians or athletes or actors to help enhance their performance, and they will visualize themselves in the perfect scenario. So maybe they're making that perfect dive, or that perfect pitch, or playing that perfect piano concerto. There are lots of different types of guided imagery, and so I just wanted to briefly describe these. In-state guided imagery is used to imagine yourself as you would like to be, or as you would like to perform. And so this is really what's often used by athletes, musicians, and performers. Biologically correct imagery, and this focuses on what's happening in the bodies and cells. And so you might use this if you were imagining your body fighting off some kind of disease or illness. Feeling state, and that feeling state is one that you might use to change your mood or an emotional state. If you feel like you have a panic attack coming on, or if you feel very stressed, you would use this kind of guided imagery. Metaphoric imagery, which focuses on symbols that describe what's happening in the body. So maybe you think about different chakras in your body, and you use those chakras to be able to think about the endocrine organs that are correlated with them to actually bring down your stress level. And wise guided imagery, which is imagining some kind of wise or loving being who offers you protection or guidance, or might help answer questions that you have. So how does it work? So it's actually a very, very powerful tool, and it can have a tremendous effect on the body. And our bodies actually react the same way if we're actually experiencing something, or if we're just imagining that experience. So if you start thinking about lying on a beach in the Caribbean, your body will start to relax, just like you're actually lying on that beach. And because of this, guided imagery is often used to stimulate what we call the relaxation response. And this term was coined by a Harvard physician and researcher, Dr. Herbert Benson. You may have heard of him. And so physiologically, it is the mirror that's opposite that stress response. And so it's characterized as calming the nervous system, you know, bringing down the cortisol level, your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your breathing. And it can actually help with hormonal balance and actually kind of bringing you into a parasympathetic state. And so there's actually quite a lot of research. You'll see at the end I put some references in around the benefits of using guided imagery, and they're definitely wide-ranging benefits, and really used by all kinds of different populations. It can be used by adults or children, by sick or healthy patients, athletes, performers. It's shown that it can reduce and relieve pain, decrease depression and anxiety, and actually stimulate the immune system response. In medical situations, they have found that it might help medical students reduce fatigue, tolerate chemotherapy or radiation therapy better, withstand surgery and difficult procedures like dental procedures if people are afraid of that. And it does often seem to help a variety of symptoms that are made worse by stress, such as chest pain, that you might have an angina, or high blood pressure, high glucose, headaches, or breathing problems. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're treating those in a physiologically responsible way, but nevertheless, being able to do some guided imagery often will really help with kind of an adjunct treatment. And they have actually been using guided imagery to help with patients suffering from COVID of late. So it's something that that really is, you know, has no risks. There's no license or certification. There are some very reputable professional training programs. And so really it's something that can be easily used and easily learned, and has a good research basis for it. So with that said, I would like to kind of get you to think a little bit about time in nature. And, you know, there's been a real resurgence around this as well. And they talk about it as a new form of therapy, nature therapy or ecotherapy. And so it's really this kind of broad term of getting people outside to spend time in nature. You might have heard a bit about forest bathing, and this is part of what they call nature therapy. And it also is based on the principles of ecopsychology and biophilia, and really the way that we connect with the outdoors and the nature ecosystem. And so, you know, really, if we can't actually get outside, we can actually think about being outside. And so that's really what I would like you to come with me for a walk in the woods today. And we will be using all of our senses. And so what I would like you to do is I would like you to just start to get comfortable and start thinking about some time in nature that really made you feel comfortable and happy. So I invite you to get into a comfortable position. It can be sitting down or lying down. Make sure that the floor is fully supporting you so you feel balanced. And gently close your eyes and become aware of your breathing. Slowly take a deep breath and feel the sensation of air filling your lungs and then moving down into your abdomen as your stomach expands. Now take a few more breaths, slow and deep, and allow your breath to relax your body and relax your mind. And feel yourself slowing down. until you feel relaxed and calm and still. And now bring forth in your mind a picture of yourself, and you're walking along a path leading into a calm and a peaceful forest. And allow yourself to follow that path at a very relaxed pace. You're not in any hurry. And as you walk, start to notice what the environment around you looks like and what it feels like. You're not in any rush, and you're just spending time to stop and look and listen to what's going on around you. What do you hear? Can you hear the birds singing in the trees? The rustle of a squirrel bearing an acorn for their winter stash? Is that an insect buzzing by? Or the sound of the wind in the treetops? The distant sound of a plane flying overhead? Or maybe the gurgle of water rushing over stones in a nearby brook? What do you hear? What do you see in your mind's eye? The sun peeping through a forest? Is it creating mosaics on the path ahead? The array of different kinds and colors of plants all around you? The pebbles on the path you're walking on? The flit of a bird flying by? The towering trees waving in the wind above you? Those leaves, they're doing a subtle dance in the breeze. What do you see? Remember to be aware of your breathing. Stop on the forest path and take another deep breath. And feel the sensation of the lungs as they fill with air. And as that air moves down into your abdomen and then out again. Breathe in and out. And allow the breath to further relax your body and your mind. Can you feel your breath slowing down? Your shoulders relaxing? You have nowhere to be and nothing to do but to be here in the woods, feeling calm and relaxed and still. As you deeply inhale, what can you smell as you begin to walk down the path? Can you smell the moist earth in the woods around you? The smell of the woodland flowers? The musty smell of last year's leaves? That heady aroma of evergreen or pine trees wafting in on the wind? What do you smell? And what can you imagine tasting here in the woods? The sweet honey-like taste of a honeysuckle flower, freshly picked from its vine and sucked on? The spicy taste of a sassafras tree reminding you of root beer? The essential oil bite of a pine needle? How do those tastes feel in your body? Do they remind you of times past? Take a few more breaths and think about how you feel in your body. Can you imagine a warm breeze enveloping and relaxing you? The sun gently warming the top of your head. The cool shade of the trees providing you with a place to rest. You feel warm and nurtured, safe and relaxed in this environment. Your muscles are relaxed with all the tenseness flowing out of you. And as you slowly continue down the path, you see that you are slowly coming out of the woods. But you're ready to leave. You're feeling more calm, resilient, healthy, and satisfied. You're ready to take on the tasks at hand. Because remember, you can come back to the woods anytime you like in your mind's eye. It's always there for you. And now slowly, become aware of your breathing. The in breath and the out breath. The sensations of that breath coming into your chest and abdomen. And slowly, you're coming back into the room, feeling your body on the chair or floor. And when you're ready, slowly and gently opening up your eyes. I almost hate to bring you all back.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Claudia Joy.
No problems. So I will show you, and you will all get a PDF of this. I have some references for guided imagery if you are interested. And I also have a reading list, a little bit about nature cure, and so if anyone's interested, you can actually go to a few different places and do some exploring. Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again. And I will just anecdotally add that there are many wonderful guided imagery that you have recorded that are on YouTube that you can similarly listen to. Similarly, apps and things like that. Find something that resonates with you, and it doesn't have to cost very much. So, thank you. Do we have any outstanding questions about or that are burning on people's minds today, or anything they want to share about their time in the woods? Okay.
Looks like everybody was out in the woods somewhere.
Everyone is there, and I encourage you to go back should you do. And of course, I want to emphasize, as I always do, that this is a collective and community effort. So please engage others to join us. Thank Janet profusely for all that she does to make it happen. And if there are any I guess this would be a question for either Claudia Joy or Dr. Hogan. Is there any COVID updates? Yeah.
Well, there are lots of updates. I think there's a further updates on the vaccines. There is an issue of actually several countries. So Russia claims that they've started vaccinating all of their citizens, and they're starting with military and healthcare workers. They're claiming that by the end of September they'll vaccinate 2/3 of the country. It sounds crazy. I don't know if that's all political game, because they basically finished phase 3 trial on the vaccine in less than 4 weeks, which seems incredibly impossible. But Moderna vaccine is supposed to end its phase 3 trial late September or mid-October, or maybe late October. So it could be that we will have a vaccine as early as end of October or November. That's probably the biggest update. The other 3 vaccines that are currently in trials are probably going to be delayed further. AstraZeneca, which is Oxford University vaccine, I think is just behind the Moderna, but pretty close. Now, we don't know, there's a lot of uncertainties about vaccines. We don't know the efficacy level. We don't know possible side effects. So we have to wait to hear all that. So I don't have any updates on that. I'm just giving you rough dates that I see from reading. One little update, the treatment that's called convalescent plasma, which is taking blood from a person who had COVID and then infusing it into someone who's having the more severe version, actually didn't work. So that's one treatment is now out of the window, unfortunately. I think there is no clear evidence that MMR vaccine somehow lessens the effects of COVID. From what my reading that I've seen some of these statements, they're expert statements. They're actually not based on science. I think if you need MMR vaccine because for some reason your immunity is weighing down, then sure, go for it. If you have normal levels of antibodies, I think it's completely unreasonable actually to try to get another vaccination because I mean, you could try to boost the amount of antibodies, but I don't see how that necessarily is going to be efficacious if you already have a good titers. So that's my, now I think there may be more information on that but for now I wouldn't go for it. Yeah, so I actually in some ways do agree with Kathy about schools reopening, but I actually think what should be done about schools is what's called a hybrid curriculum where there's going to be some partial reopening at the very significantly decreased number of students per class at the very short period of time per day, with the rest of the time being online learning, either synchronous or asynchronous. Synchronous. Say again?
Is this because you have 2 preteens? Or...
Well, I mean, luckily or not so luckily, but you know, my wife is not working, so we have someone who can take care of them at home. But I can imagine for people who are, yeah, but I think opening it at the regular schedule is potentially extremely risky, even though the kids don't seem to be the main vector of transmission. But the problem is we don't know. We have not had kids in a very crowded spaces on a regular basis. And yeah, that's what happens when they hear that we're talking about them. They come over and smack my forehead. No, you can't throw pillows at me. So yeah, that's what happens. I mean, that's a good example. If I'm at home working and they're also at home, pillows flying and all kinds of unpleasantries may occur. All right, so Carol, I think I answered the question about convalescent plasma. It's not working, and there's a clear date on that. Why? We don't know. I have a feeling it's simply because by the time you try to infuse antibodies into somebody, they already developed them. So it's basically what it means is when someone's get really sick, The antibodies have nothing to do with anything at that point. They just have this massive inflammatory response that needs to be curbed down. Giving somebody antibodies, it's too late. Whether the convalescent plasma early on can help, that may be, but who do you select to give, that's completely unclear, because if the patient has a mild illness, giving that to them is crazy because it's a very expensive treatment and very limited in amount. So, I mean, unfortunately, I think that this treatment's just not gonna bite the dust completely. And so it will just probably be used on a compassionate level when everything else fails. So yeah, it's a great question why there's no more discussion about doing a lot of school activities outside. I don't know. I mean, I think that's one of the ways of potentially allowing for more interaction in a safer way. So I gave an interview on the radio on Wednesday. I actually give this Sputnik radio interview almost every week now, or every other week. And we talked about this exactly. I kind of asked a political question, why is nobody discussing alternative ways of getting kids together, whether it's outside, in the smaller groups, in some form where, you know, they're doing activities individually in a larger space and not necessarily coming in close contact. I mean, you could come up with a lot of, you know, innovative ideas. I think the problem is, think of it this way, the schools have to do this on a mass scale, right? So they can't just do tiny experiments here and there. They have to come up, and I'm sure there's a lot of smart people trying to do this on a short period of time. But, you know, think of an outside difficulty. One school may have a great playground and one may have a really bad one. How do you structure all that? I think there's lots of questions that are hard to think through, but they have to be thought through, because if this illness, according to all the experts and according to what I'm reading, is not going to be around here for a while, we have to find alternative ways to educate kids. And I think some interactivity or some face-to-face is critical. I mean, kids don't, you know, kids need interactions. They need social time in one way or another. So, all right, did I address everything so far? I don't know about Donna. I'm not sure what your question points at. About political interference with vaccine approval. I have not heard that. So you either need to specify what that means, or I'm not sure I can answer that. Yeah, I think it is recorded, Amy. I'm pretty sure it is. So we will place the recording, same place where every other meetings are. All right.
It'll be on the YouTube channel, AIM's YouTube channel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure what this means. This doctor is supporting hydroxychloroquine prophylactically. I'm not sure what that refers to, but there's no role potentially for hydroxychloroquine prophylactically. The study just published basically rules that out. Although hydroxychloroquine is still in discussions in some circles, in some scientific, but currently I'd say there's more negative data than positive.
Then there's also a COVID-wise app in Virginia for contact tracing. That's what the question is referring to.
A what?
There's an app.
COVID-wise, good app? No, I don't know.
Okay. I think it's what they're trying to develop to use for contact tracing. Okay. Well,
yeah. Can't answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, JG, I don't think I can answer your question either. It's a personal medical question that I think you need to talk to your provider. This is not something I think I can answer, especially in public.
All right. Well, I know that we're all just in the dog days of summer and trying to keep on keeping on. So I appreciate you all being here, and we will see you next week. Janet, you want to send this out? How is the plant-based discussion?
Oh, it went really well, and
okay.
I'll probably be able to share a link to the video with everybody in a few weeks. But
yeah, that would be great. I'd love to see it.
But one of the things I'd like to do, if my computer wasn't so slow, share with you guys who will be your facilitators for next week. I just realized I never do that, and that's probably something you should do. Okay, so so next Friday, our facilitators will be Dr. Misha Kogan and Nina Paul, who's a mindfulness instructor at GW, and she's been with us once or twice before.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to having them with us next week.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Jen. Bye.
Bye.